Everything in this video is for general information and educational purposes only. Nothing presented constitutes financial product advice, personal advice, or a recommendation to acquire or deal in any financial products. Any examples are illustrative only and should not be relied upon as indicators of future performance, as past performance is not a reliable indicator of future performance.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So we're just going to go through another market update, a little bit of an update since the last one that we've done. So we're just going to start with the LTVW. Looking again for those who are not familiar with it, we've got the yearly levels up through here of the VWAP, which is on the daily time frame, the quarterly in the top right, which is on the 12-hour. Then down on the 4-hour, we have the monthly, and then on the 30 minutes, we have the weekly. So just going through these from top left through from the highest time frame. We go and have a look at the yearly. We discussed last time when we were around this area down through here that we wanted to remain in an imbalanced up state, which so far price action's shown that it is remained in an upside state. So we put this inverted head and shoulders in down through here, and it is playing out a little bit at the moment, pushing towards this standard 1.5 deviation away from the developing yearly VWAP. So as we said, we were remaining bullish while we were remaining by this level, and price has pushed. So that bias has allowed us to stay keeping the right track of which direction we believe the market was going to go, and we did believe that it had the potential to push up as long as it's above this developing yearly and showing some sort of compression. Moving over to the quarterly now, we can see that we were underneath and we were struggling to reclaim, but we were compressing under it. We've got this little bit of a in this area here, we've got this little bit of a inside time and space area, which we've got a test of the developing quarterly value area low, and now we've traversed up towards the developing quarterly value area, towards the developing quarterly VWAP with a close above it. However, we do need to be mindful that we actually have a 9 that's gone in through here. So obviously when we've had 9s in the past, it can say a reversal or a bit of a cool off is required. However, the thing that could make this a continuation 9 is the fact that we are currently above the developing quarterly VWAP. So while we're remaining above that area, we are bullish to traverse to the other side of developing quarterly value area high at 118,900, we'll call it thereabouts. So that traversion is under the way at the moment. Looking down here at the monthly and breaking this up a little bit, we have the previous monthly value area low at the time, which was the compression level that we're trying to push into, and we had a fair bit of noise and chop around that area as the bulls and bears fought it out to try and say who was going to claim that level. We also had the month before's value area low. So as you can see that with that compression, it's finally broken through. It's remained imbalanced up off the current developing monthly, and we're also coming in previous month and the previous quarterly VWAP is around the same. So again, at the moment, one thing to be noticed, we need to be looking at is looking left, and we can see that we've got the monthly, so not last month's, but the months before VWAP, which is coming and put a little bit of a rejection on here at the moment. But as I said, with the quarterly, we are just looking at the moment for this VWAP to hold. So anything under there opens up for a higher, sort of a higher low to be pulled back on. But while remaining above that level, it's still looking pretty somewhat parabolic to be pushing higher off that level. We come across now and we look at the weekly. It's got a little bit more information which is going on with it. We've got this week through here that have extended out to the left because it was a fairly naked profile, meaning it hadn't really had much price action once the actual week closed. It only had a couple of times through here in which after it closed off, we then came up with testing the value area low of it. So mindful when there's a profile with not much value. So we've got this one up here as well that's naked. So this will obviously be a little bit of an area of resistance moving forward. But at the moment, we are rotational with inside this previous week's value with inside of here. So while we're remaining rotational within that area through there, this is why this rejection is happening here. So it does open up for the possibility of rotating back down lower if it does want to go down. But at the moment, above those higher time frame VWAPs, we are looking for somewhat of a continuation. However, it does start to look a little bit weaker moving forward from there. Then we've got a bit of an idea of this developing weekly value area high and the previous VWAP. A little bit low would be an area that I'd be looking for some sort of support and to hold on to there for continuing a shallower pullback, not just a opening up for a pullback that could traverse all the way back to the bottom of this value area low, where the developing weekly VWAP is currently coming in. So we've sort of got a few ideas, but we know that we're rotational with inside of this area through here. So we pop over to the TPO charts now and have a quick look at what's going on with those. Again, as I showed last time, the way that this window is set up is we just have simple daily profiles that are up in this area through here. The bottom down here we have developing with composites. And then we have up through here, we have the weekly, which we mix composites in, and then we have the monthly as well. So we just go through those similar to what we did to the LTVW, incorporating a little bit of time as well as just volume into it. We can have a little bit of a look and see what's going on. So I'll just refresh these refresh these profiles at the moment. I'm going to have a little bit of a look at, so we can see that we've been moving up P-shaped profile, pushed into a B-shaped profile, has still closed up on the high. So everyone who tried to short this profile here to move it down lower into the single prints and value area low, they obviously currently are offside. We can then look and see where we opened in respect to yesterday. We went very high on the profile. We have some more single prints. There was a naked point of control, which we pushed through and we've mitigated off now. And that point of control came in all the way from over this profile over here, Saturday, August the 23rd. And at the moment, we can see that we are building some balance above previous day's profile. So just looking in this at the moment, how I generally go about it is these single prints through here, this whole sort of area, if you wanted to look at it, we've got the single prints through here that might want to get rebalanced. We've got this point of control that didn't have a lot of impact, but it could have an impact in holding on the way back through. Obviously, because people just will take profits there. They'll be shorting the market there. So when it comes back there, they can break even, turning into market buys, or they might want to rejoin into the move, feeling like they've actually got out too early. So this whole area, as well as the deviations that you get from that sort of price action down at this previous day value area high, which could get a bit of a retap. But at the moment, we have an open balance. Therefore, while we're remaining above, we are looking for higher prices if we just sort of to isolate this price action alone and have a little bit of a look into it. So we go and look at the composites. These will be the same profiles here. We're just having a look at these little composites at the moment. We can see we have some composites from further up as well, which is coming up more towards these equal highs up through here. We're not up there at the moment, so not having too much of a look, but we can see that we didn't exactly have single prints that was happening through here, but it was quite a bit of a thin spot over here. So that sort of makes sense how it's coming in with this naked value area high over through here. And that lines up with things like that value area high from weeks before as well. So this is where these levels start to becoming a little bit confluent. But we're just wanting to have a little bit of a look at these profiles. We finally got out of where it got choppy because we had this composite through here, this composite through here, and then obviously the lower composite, which was in that composite from further back from the last update that I did. Then we built this profile through here. We had a couple of days of a profile before it took off. So we have this profile, which essentially has a value area high sitting around the area of this 3-day composite over through here. At the moment, we've closed above this one, so there's no merging going on. We've closed above again. So we can see that we're in a clear uptrend at the moment, but we are starting to extend a little bit through here. And as always, there's always a pullback. So whether or not we get the pullback where it comes back down towards this composite or this value area high, this vicinity, if it wants to be shallow, as I said, otherwise accepting back into old composites could come down and be testing some of these lower composites and become rotational again if it does want to sort of drag out and not exactly just dart straight up to contend with the highest supply points of this entire range since the all-time high has gone in. So that's just something that currently I'm looking at. If I was to look at this in a way of like a hypothesis at the moment, we have pushed up above these profiles, so it's looking pretty good. And we do have some shallow points down here that there's no sort of reason that even if it does come back down here, it's still not looking good. So I'd start being a little bit more wary if we got into this 3-day composite back over through here. That will just open up for the general rule of this area through here starts to become more rotational again. But until then, while we are above this profile through here, we haven't accepted back within it, such as like an 80% rule. We get 2 30-minute closes within it, which opens up the point of control rotation or potentially the value area low, which again sort of is confluent again with that 3-day value area high. So this whole area through here is still a bit of a launch pad until I see some weakness. And then we could actually look for some sort of deeper high low if it was to put one from here. Otherwise, at the moment, it's still looking pretty good and looks like it's just having a little bit of a pull off based on people taking profits and that sort of thing. Jump up now to the weekly as well. We'll have a little bit of a look through here. So we've got these composites set through here, and if I just reset that, I can show you what we're looking at through here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days of weeks, of composite value. Then we have the weeks lead down. Then we have this old composite through here, which is made up of 4 weeks. And those 4 weeks there. Then we had these recent 2 weeks, which we've pushed out of and above now. And then, of course, if we come and have a little bit of a look, so I don't mind having a look at what these two weeks were. We can see that we are trying to enter back with inside of that 6 week point of control from this naked profile. Naked value area high still exists further up. So a little bit of a thing I normally do is I'll set, looking at some composites just on a daily, and I'm going to use the crosshairs that I'm getting off that weekly to sort of show me what those levels are. So when I look at this naked value area high through here at the moment, it's coming in roughly at the bottom of this 3-day profile through here. So you can see how they all start to line up. So obviously the weekly naked value area high in that singular profile is lining up sort of with this 1700 level. And then we move back again and we say, okay, so that's where we're currently sitting. If we have a look at where we actually just broke through, which was that 6-week CVAL level, that's also coming in, but I could see it's probably a bit hard on your screens, but I'm seeing it's coming in pretty much around these single prints down through here as well. So it makes sense just for that lower time frame, mid time frame, come down, test the single prints, get a kick off that and push high if that's what it wants to do. If the supply is too high and supply keeps adding and there was too much demand here that wants to add pressure to it, this is where this could break down. So it's quite important to be watching at the moment, even though this is a weekly profile nonetheless. We can see that it's developed a bit of a thin spot or a cell tail at the moment from this point through here. And if we expand that, we have a look at this. This is just ticking over at 4 hours each time it's creating one of these new lines. We can see this point of control and this value area low is trying to hold already around this area at the moment. So a little bit to take in that we want to see. We want to become re-rotational with inside this weekly profile up through here. But obviously if it closes, tomorrow or something like that down in here, it opens back up for rotations a lot lower again to put in sort of that more higher, lower, build a bit more value before it continues up if it doesn't just want to run straight up. Looking at the monthly, so we were discussing last time about being between these two-month composites. You can see that there was a little bit of compression going on. You can just tell by the way that it wasn't just completely square. It was pushing each time, trying harder to push up than it was down by the amount of taps. So a little bit of time and space. We finally pushed through. So at the moment, it's going to take a little bit longer to confirm acceptance within here. But nonetheless, again, if it wanted to, it could sort of remain rotational here, even come back down, see how, test its current value of a value area high, even test the value area low again of these 2 months. All sorts of games that it can play, but nonetheless, it is showing signs that it is going to attempt some acceptance with inside of here. The boundaries of that are roughly 112,000 up to 120,000. So within sort of that area, we could start building balance and start seeing some traversions back up to the towards the all-time highs. Point of control of this 2-month composite comes in around 117,875. If we reset this, we can break it up. We can see at the moment that we have this naked, this was a value area low. We have this point of control, so that's coming in around 115,000. So above 115,000, just looking at these two combined, we can see at the moment that it's still looking pretty strong to move towards the 2-month composite. Otherwise, we could be a little bit capped down into this lower part of the 2-month composite. So I haven't really done any updates on here because I just wanted to get that sort of update out pretty quick. But yeah, as we did last time, you can bring some of those levels from your VWAPs, those important levels. You can bring some of those composites, like the weekly NPOC and the 5-week CVAL obviously sits here if it wants to come down and give a little bit of a test. Pretty strong if it wants to just keep pushing on. Bit of a fair value gap from over here that's pushed out to the side. And then we have these rolling VWAPs, which we discussed last time. We didn't want to see something similar to what happened over here where they did cross over and it got capped and got pushed down. Well, those who looked at this and thought the same thing was going to happen when we got back up to this area, potentially would now be offside or would have been stopped out. So we can see that we have this little bit of a 9 that came through, a bit of a doji candle. We'll just have a bit of a zoom in on it. And you can see that these 90 and 30-day VWAPs pretty much had a bit of a retest of that area and it's crossing over. So this can remain building balance above this area for a bit of time with the volumes and that sort of thing. It can definitely recross back over once again and actually become a bit of a cradle for higher prices. So far, so good. It's looking pretty good that we didn't get any sort of nasty rejection, which sent us back straight down through here. It's not to say that it can't happen. Anything can happen. But at the moment, we just need to keep an eye on this price action, keep an eye on these sort of higher time frame levels, keep an eye on these rolling VWAPs if it does come back down and wants to build a little bit of a range in here, that sort of thing. But at the moment, it is looking pretty good. But it's normally when it's looking really good is when it can turn around. So just being mindful, it's quite a high area now to be buying. And even though saying that, I could just take straight off to 120 from here up that 5-week composite value area high. But nonetheless, if you're sidelined or not sitting in any positions at the moment, it is a place definitely to be mindful and not to sort of be the type of people who buy the local tops and then end up offside for a prolonged period of time or being stopped out due to being a little bit impulsive. So hopefully that helped. Just a little bit of an update at the moment of what I'm seeing in the market, and I'll catch you in the next one.